People thought that Tim Allen's home in the Hollywood Hills would be another expensive star listing when it went on the market. But as potential sellers and people who work in the real estate business got a better look, disturbing facts started to come to light. Fans had a very different idea of the home improvement star than what we knew about them because of secret rooms, repairs that were not made public, and money problems. One thing became clear as more people asked what had been going on behind the mansion's doors. Not only was what they found in Tim Allen's house strange, it was also scary. The home that made people look twice. Tim Allen's home in the Hollywood Hills wasn't just another famous mansion. It was a mysterious fortress. The huge house was high above Los Angeles and had stunning views of the canyon and the city skyline. But for those who looked past the fancy front, there was a disturbing truth waiting below the surface. People had been quietly guessing about Allen's estate for years. The public saw it as a work of art and architecture, a refuge that mixed mid-century modern style with rustic charm. The house had large windows that went from floor to ceiling, sleek wooden walls, and a master suite that was as fancy as the most expensive hotel rooms in the world. Even though the house looked warm and friendly, guests often said it was very quiet inside, a feeling that someone or something was trying to hide something. This could have been because of the huge size of the house and the way the hallways and rooms didn't always seem to connect the way they should. Or maybe it was the fact that only close friends and longtime employees were allowed to go to certain places. One maid who had worked at the estate for more than 10 years said she had never been to some parts of the house, even though she had cleaned almost every other inch of it. She later told him that it wasn't just that the doors were locked, it was that you felt like you shouldn't have asked what they were doing behind them. People who work in real estate were also confused. The Hollywood Hills is known for having strange homes, but Allen's estate had a history of repairs that were late, sudden changes to the plans for the building, and property records that were not clear at all. Some people said that the people who had owned the land before them had their own secrets, like lost tunnels and hidden rooms, and hidden chambers from many years ago. Allen's choice to sell the house was when the story got more complicated. As real estate agents and potential buyers went through the house, small problems started to show up. Some rooms looked bigger on paper than they did in real life, and some didn't seem to have any direct entrances. When hired to do a routine check, an experienced contractor left the property clearly shaken. When asked for more information, he wouldn't give it. He only said something is wrong with that place. Either a palace fit for a king or a place to hide. Tim Allen's farm in the Hollywood Hills looked like a dream home on paper. It was the kind of place that most people could only dream about. The floor plan was open, the finishes were sleek and high-end, and there was enough room for big Hollywood parties. Something didn't seem right though. Despite the high ceilings and well-planned decorations, Allen had been known as a quiet person for years, rarely talking about his personal life in interviews. This wasn't unusual for famous people, but his level of caution went above and beyond what was normal. Allen had strangely strict rules about his home. Even people who were close to him noticed this. Some parts of the house weren't open to the public, and the security measures were on par with those found in government buildings. Biometric entry on more than one level, reinforced walls in places that didn't seem to need them, and cameras that watched over the whole land. It's not like these were normal security steps for a famous person. They were precautions that made you think of something else. The basement, or more correctly, what was under it, was one interesting thing. The house's official plans showed a small lower floor for utilities and storage, but something didn't seem right. Contractors who had worked on other Hollywood houses told Allen's that the square footage of his home didn't match the floor space. Real estate professionals were the first ones to notice something wasn't right. As part of their due research on the house, one buyer's agent asked for an underground scan, which is common for homes this size. But the scan didn't show the normal foundation plan. Instead, it showed something else, a hollowed-out space under the house that wasn't on any official papers. When asked about it, Allen's representatives said it was just a private storage place, and that the actor wasn't required to talk about it. But that explanation wasn't enough to please the more interested people in the sale. There were rumors. Was this a forgotten part of the house, or was Allen trying to hide something? One possible buyer was said to have looked upset and left the tour in the middle. They just said, "I don't know what's in that house, but I don't want to find out." When asked what made them feel bad. What could be scarier? Some of Allen's best friends said that he never talked about the estate a lot. Allen didn't talk about his expensive home like other celebrities did, which was not like him at all. The biggest red flag may have come from somewhere you wouldn't expect it to. A former security guard was hired to keep an eye on the building at night. In a later comment, he said, "I don't know what was in there, but I can tell you this. Tim Allen did not want anyone to find it." As the sale went on, things got more tense. The truth had to be found by someone. Everything changed when they did. The garage that didn't just hold cars. From the outside, Tim Allen's garage looked like what you'd expect from a famous actor who loves cars. There is a clean showroom with old cars, muscle cars, and rare motorbikes. Allen, known for his love of hot rods and old cars, often talked about his collection in interviews, showing how much he loved fixing up and taking care of his favorite cars. However, people who had seen the garage up close felt that something wasn't quite right. One reason was that the place wasn't big enough for what was written in the property records. It looked like a well-kept, fully stocked shed at first glance, but guests who paid close attention saw small problems with the way it was built. Later, a real estate agent who was working on the deal said, "I've been in a lot of celebrity garages before. This one had a different feel to it. Some places didn't seem to be open to anyone, and it was clear that those areas weren't just for keeping cars." The garage pit, which is a mechanic's dream because it lets them work on cars from below, was the biggest red flag. Most of the time these pits are simple structures, but Allen's was deeper than it needed to be, and built with materials that will last a lot longer than what is needed for normal car care. The contractor hired to check the house's base before it was sold saw the problem, and pushed for more tests to be done. But before the process could move forward, Allen's team stopped looking into it right away. "This makes me feel bad." Afterward, the contractor said that stopping the check had no reason unless they didn't want us to see something. Then there were the things that were found in the garage, or more accurately, the ones that were missing. Allen was known for collecting cars, but some guests noticed that important parts of his collection were missing. The cars he used to show off in public in the past have disappeared. Some people thought they had been sold, but there was no proof of that. What was even stranger was a stack of faded boxes tucked into a corner that had only coded labels on them. One real estate assistant who was very careful got a glimpse inside an open one and said she saw old VHS tapes, handwritten notes, and what looked like old classified papers. What did Allen have stored in his garage? The more important question is why he did everything he did to keep people out. The fear room that no one knew about. The panic room made any doubts that were there in the garage into full-on alarms. Almost all of the homes of famous people have some kind of security system. A lot of well-known estates have safe rooms, which are secure areas meant to keep homeowners safe in case of an accident. Allen's panic room was different though because he went to great lengths to hide it. At first the room's presence wasn't even told to the real estate agents who were in charge of the sale. It wasn't until an architect looked over the house's layout and saw a blank spot in the blueprint. This was a place in the house that didn't serve a purpose and didn't have a clear way to get to it. It was strange, one builder said. The measurements showed that there was a whole part of the house that didn't exist, at least not legally. By using structural scans and old building permits, agents were able to put together what they were looking into. The main reason most panic rooms are built is to keep people safe from outside threats. But Allen's escape room looked like it was meant for something completely different. It wasn't just to keep someone safe, it was meant to keep someone or something inside. Before going through with the sale, the real estate company representing possible buyers asked to see all parts of the house. Allen's managers didn't say anything back. Soon after, a team was sent to the house to do a private investigation. The whole room was locked up by the time they got there. The empty space in the building that looked like a secret room was now filled. The walls had been made stronger. The possible entry had been blocked off for good, and there was no sign of it being there. The real estate agent, who had seen the original plans before they were changed, was left feeling very uncertain. "I know what I saw. There was room for it. That room had something in it. It's gone now for good." The question that kept everyone up at night: what was in that panic room before it was locked up? There were hidden files, and a study was done. After the scary things found in the garage, and the strange ceiling in the panic room, people looked at another strange thing in the house. An old plain filing cabinet that wasn't used very often. At first it didn't seem important. Just another piece of furniture in a messy office. But when the team of potential buyers started making a list of the estate's things, the cabinet was locked in a way that wasn't normal, and it wasn't with a key. Instead, a high-security fingerprint lock was put on it. This is the kind of lock that is usually used to keep government secrets or public financial records safe. At that point, the level of interest changed to real worry. What could a Hollywood star be keeping that needed to be kept in such strict safety? It looked like the answer wasn't supposed to be found. A quick and clear answer was given when discreet questions were put to Alan's agents. No one could go into the case, no key would be given, and no entry would be given. It was flatly turned down when asked to be added to the home's goods. That alone made people look twice. It wasn't long before rumors started flying around. Some of the people who worked in the house while Alan was a resident talked about stacks of old tapes, handwritten papers, and packages that were so tightly sealed that they looked like they had not been opened in years. It was said that Alan had carefully written down everything he had seen and done in the past. Perhaps even the kinds of secrets that the rich and powerful in Hollywood have always wanted to stay hidden. Some people thought the files might have studio business, fights within the company, or personal letters that should never have been written down. Some people thought they might be much worse. Then the most disturbing truth came out. A previous estate worker who did not want to be named said that they had seen something inside the cabinet years before it was locked. He said that the upper drawer held folders with dates and names written on them, while the lower drawers held small tapes that were not marked, and were recordings of talks that were not meant to be heard. But what really shocked him was when he saw a part at the bottom that was hidden by stacks of papers. He saw something he would never forget when he moved the mess aside for a moment. He said there was only one picture, and it wasn't of Tim. Someone else was in it, and their face was pale as they looked right into the camera. Their faces were frozen, as if they had been caught in the middle of something. I'm not sure who it was, but I do remember that person who took that picture shouldn't have. As soon as he knew what he had seen, he moved away. Soon after, had the whole file cabinet moved to a different room in the house. From that day on, no one could get close to it. When it was finally time to sell the house, Alan made sure the cabinet was taken away before any possible buyers could take another look. But by then people were already asking questions. That video that got lost. As rumors spread about Alan's secret files, something else was found that made the mystery even stronger. A close friend of Alan's who had known him for a long time remembered a strange event from years ago, involving security camera footage that disappeared without any explanation. Alan's home in the Hollywood Hills had a high-tech security system that watched every entrance, hallway, and important part of the property. In the past, these cams were used for security, to catch thieves and intruders, but Alan had become obsessed with them at some point. He didn't just look at video clips every once in a while, he kept an eye on it all the time. Sometimes late at night, when he was in his study by himself, Alan's longtime friend saw that he looked shaken one evening when they went to the house. He had been using his computer to look at surveillance recordings, but he wouldn't say what was wrong when his friend asked. Not that. He turned off the PC. The office was locked, and the talk ended quickly. The friend thought about that moment for years because Alan had his whole security system wiped the next day. Everything that was recorded, backed up, or linked to footage on the machine was erased. Later, the security business that was hired to keep an eye on things confirmed that the deletion wasn't an accident. There was no way to get back the info that was lost, because the whole system had been wiped. The video had been taken down for good. It was a simple question that everyone who heard the story thought about. Why? Alan did something very bad, because of something he saw on his own security cams. Some people thought it might have been a stalker or trespasser, someone who was sneaking around his land late at night. But why wouldn't he have used the video as proof if that was the case? Some people thought it was something much more personal, like something in the house. Could it have been a secret meeting he didn't want anyone to share? A record of someone going into the locked escape room? Or maybe something even worse? The secrets of the panic room were opened. Fears about the estate's secrets spread as the investigation went on, but one part of the house stayed the center of attention: the infamous panic room. People had been talking about the locked room for years, but it had always been a bit of a mystery. At first, it was thought to be just a security measure, but it turned out to be more than just a fortified area, meant to keep out possible intruders. There was something much darker about why it was done. A handyman who had been hired to fix up the house years before it was put on the market told a scary story about what he had found. He was supposed to work on the panic room while it was being renovated, and while he was there, he found something that had been hidden inside the walls of the room. At first, his job was easy. He was only supposed to make sure everything in the room worked right. But as he started to work, he saw some strange symbols etched into the walls that were hard to see unless you looked very closely. The contractor remembered that the markings were not meant to be pretty, and were not part of any known plan for design, but he couldn't figure out what they meant. They seemed planned, like a code or language. Alan told the contractor that the symbols were just part of making the room safer, but the contractor couldn't shake the thought that something wasn't right. When he checked the area again the next day, he was shocked to see that the marks had been erased, as if someone wanted to make sure no one would ever see them again. In the years that followed, more and more stories spread about what the panic room was really used for. Some said it was a safe place for Alan's most valuable things, while others thought it was meant to keep him safe from threats that weren't just physical. As more information about the estate came to light, one idea that caught on quickly was that the room held proof of something bad: papers, photos, or recordings that would hurt Alan's reputation, and maybe even put his career at risk. When investigators were allowed to look in the room during the estate's final sale check, they found the last piece of information. In the sealed area, that was first thought to be empty, a hidden room was found behind the false wall. This room had been missed by all the people who had looked at the house over the years. A bunch of manila folders and sealed bags were inside. Each one has mysterious notes inside, some written by Alan himself and others clearly put together by someone else. One of the most shocking things that were found was a letter that had been highly redacted and stamped with the words "classified, do not distribute." Once it was figured out, the letter hinted at a bad deal. A business deal that went bad and could ruin Alan's image in Hollywood. It was clear that this panic room had been used to store more than just things. It had the secrets that Tim Allen really wanted to keep hidden. We still don't know what those secrets were or why they were kept so closely, at least for now. There were people who went missing, and no one saw them coming. Another creepy trend started to show up as the estate's secrets slowly came out. The absence of some people who were close to Tim Allen. As usual, there were stories about publicists, managers, and assistants leaving to work on other projects. This was a much scarier thing. A number of Alan's former close friends and colleagues had vanished from public view for no apparent reason. These were not just random people. These were people who had been very important in his life and work in the past. They helped shape his image and build his brand. But it looked like nothing of them was left behind after they left. In the eyes of the public, they disappeared. No comments to the press, no notes of farewell, and no official departures. In Alan's story, they just stopped existing. James Blackwell was a well-known personal helper who had worked with Alan for a long time, and been very close to him for almost 10 years. For Alan, Blackwell was in charge of setting up interviews, and high-profile talks, and keeping his public image in good shape. But Blackwell quit his job after a strange and unknown incident, and was never seen or heard from again. People could no longer find him on social media sites, or get in touch with him personally. Over time, someone on Alan's team said that the situation with Blackwell's leaving was anything but normal. James was more than just a helper, he was a friend. Because he was kicked out of the picture so quietly and quickly, he knew everything about Tim's personal life and business deals. The source said, "It didn't sit right with me." Claire Reynolds was another person. She used to work in public relations, and had done some of Alan's most famous projects with him. Reynolds played a big role in making Alan's public image, especially when his work was at its peak in the 2000s. But after a very private fight, she withdrew from the public eye, and no one could confirm where she was. The truth began to come out when a former co-worker reached out without giving their name. Reynolds was said to have taken time off to deal with personal issues, but Alan and Reynolds had to cut off all business ties. The co-worker agreed that she was under a lot of stress. She was doing some things that made her feel bad. Though she left with a sad heart, she was no longer in the news because they knew too much about her. This scary trend brought up a scary question. Did Alan use his power and influence to shut down people who were getting too close to something darker than anyone thought? How did these people go missing? Did they have something to do with the secrets that were buried in the panic room? As the puzzle parts started to fit together, one thing became clear. Behind-the-scenes story of Tim Allen's life had been carefully kept secret for years, and those who were too close to the truth were shut up. In some cases, they did things that made it hard to find them. That is a very strange piece of information about Tim Allen's fortune. Did this sound like something you thought might be going on with his estate? Why or why not?
Kindly tell us what you think in the space below. Thanks for seeing. Until the next time.